Your next promotion is within your control, and this podcast shows you how to get there. Welcome to episode number 66. In today's episode, I'm going to be showing you why getting passed over for promotion could be the best thing that ever happened for your career. Don't believe me? Listen on.
Welcome to Maximize Your Career with Stacy Mayer, a podcast about achieving your career goals while also being yourself.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Maximize Your Career. I'm your host, Stacy Mayer, and super excited, as always, to be here with you guys again this week. We just had a bonus kickoff call for my next cohort of Executive Ahead of Time. This is the 6-week group coaching intensive that I created that gives powerhouse corporate leaders just like you all of the tools to get promoted into senior executive leadership and to have success once you get there. So before the program started, I actually have been enrolling people for the past 3 weeks, and many of them were anxious to get started and meet each other. So I offer a bonus call for all of us to get together, for all of us to empower each other to set out our goals, to get ready for the program, so that when we start next week, when we actually start the 6 weeks, we're roaring and ready to go and focused. And the reason why I share this with you is because I am so incredibly excited and proud of this group of incredible powerhouse women that showed up to our call on Friday. These are women that are incredible managers at their organization. They are already exceptional leaders. They understand leadership. One of the women in our program actually has a PhD in leadership and organizational development. And the tools that I'm going to give them over the next 6 weeks are going to show them how to actually get themselves promoted into those higher level positions, right? So it's one thing to be an incredible manager. It's another thing to understand leadership, to have really great leadership principles, to be valued by your team, to have people pat you on the back. And it's another thing to deliberately manage your career and actually get promoted into senior executive leadership positions. And if you're somebody that's already in that senior executive leadership position, but you feel like you don't have that actual voice at the table, this is the same reason why, right? So I teach you how to begin thinking and communicating like a senior executive leader, both in my programs and on this podcast, so that you can really have that voice at the table, so that you can have success at the top. And what do I mean by success? I mean actually making an impact, actually having influence at your organization, and very importantly, having the energy to do it all. So we're not looking to get promoted into senior executive positions and just burn ourselves out. So these women showed up to our call on Friday, eager, ready, hungry to learn, excited about the opportunities that are in front of them, and they're going to start seeing results from this program almost immediately. In fact, we have a Voxer group chat, and one of the participants said, I'm actually combing through module 1, which is called Getting Out of the Weeds, and she's already realizing that simple tweaks to her communication next week, she's setting herself up for the whole next week of how she's going to communicate differently about her projects. Is she going to go into all of the details about every single thing? No, she is going to speak higher level, more visionary, actually share what her goals are. And by doing so, she is going to start to show her leadership that she is ready for that higher level executive role. She's going to become the executive ahead of time next week. How amazing is that? I'm super excited, super pumped, and just really cannot wait to get started with the group coaching calls. And thank you for being one of my trusted listeners. I am excited for you as well. You guys have been on this journey with me. We're coming up on a year of the pandemic, right? A year of change And so many of you have been able to make really powerful choices for your career, even amongst all this chaos and change. And that actually leads me into what I want to talk about in today's podcast episode. So there is a thing that might happen to you throughout the course of your career, and it's called getting passed over for a promotion. So if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably had this happen to you before. It's a normal course of events in terms of executive leadership. It's a normal course of events when you're putting yourself out there and you want to do more at your organization, and it doesn't happen, right? So sometimes you get passed over for a promotion. But I received three emails this week. 3 emails of phenomenal corporate leaders who recently got passed over for a promotion. And these emails were depressing. The women were frustrated, rightfully so. But here's the problem. They weren't going to do anything about it. So I decided to record this podcast episode to encourage you. So if you're one of the people who reached out to me last week, to encourage you to do something about it, right, my friend? We can do something about this, and we can set ourselves up to never get passed over for a promotion again. So in today's podcast episode, I'm actually going to show you why getting passed over for a promotion has the potential to be the most amazing thing that ever happened to you. I'm laughing because it feels like crap, right? Like it's like how, like what is this? What is Stacy? Is she a Pollyanna? No, right? I am pretty positive, right? I definitely see the glass half full. I will be honest, but I'm not naive. And I also know that positive thinking doesn't actually create change always. So what I am talking about, this being the most amazing thing that could have ever happened to you, I'm going to break that down. I'm going to show you why, and I'm going to show you what you can do differently. And I say that these women did nothing, and that's actually not true. So I want to start with the first thing that they did. They emailed me, right? So they might have been emailing me just to vent their frustration, right? They might have just been trying to put into words like, look, I got passed over for a promotion. It sucks. I'm not going to join your program. I'm not going to work with you right now because now's not a good time because clearly I just got passed over for a promotion. So who the heck knows? This is not what they said. Okay. So I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but I'm just talking about energetically is, it's not going to work out right now. So I'm not going to make any big investments in myself. I want to stay put and safe, right? Rightfully so. And they probably feel a little frustrated, so they don't feel motivated to take action. So I first want to acknowledge that they reached out to me, right? So there is the person that is at home by themselves, or maybe complaining to their spouse about getting passed over for a promotion, complaining to themselves, but keeping it all inside, like not even sending the email. All right. So I want to acknowledge these corporate leaders for at least reaching out, at least saying, okay, and admitting that this happened, right? So that's the first step, right? It's sort of like, this is an extreme example, but it's kind of like the person who only cries inside their bedroom and doesn't want anybody to see it. And then the person that actually also cries, but opens the door and maybe communicates to a couple different people that they're crying inside of their bedroom, right? So it's like, it is a step. It's a huge step, right? It's the first step. I was actually looking at LinkedIn right before this podcast recording, and something popped up in my feed that I actually want to share with you. So this was a post posted by the Female Influencer, one of the groups, organizations that I follow. And it was a photograph of Meryl Streep. on the subway, clearly in like the 80s or 90s. I actually lived in New York for many, many years. And the subways were not covered in graffiti when I lived there. I think they had this magic spray or something that got graffiti off of the subways when I lived there in the 2000s. But anyway, so Meryl Streep is on this crowded subway that has graffiti all over it, and she looks very young. And it says, "This was me on my way home from an audition for King Kong, where I was told I was too ugly for the part. This was a pivotal moment for me. This one rogue opinion could derail my dreams of becoming an actress or force me to pull myself up by the bootstraps and believe in myself. I took a deep breath and said, I am sorry you think I am too ugly for your film, but you're just one opinion in a sea of thousands, and I am off to find a kinder tide. Today, I have 18 Academy Awards. Meryl Streep." Each and every one of you listening to this podcast episode has the power to have more influence at your organization, to make a bigger impact, and to literally create the life that you love. So one that has energy to spend at work and with your family, one that is able to take sabbaticals, that's able to get paid for your ideas and not just the hours that you put into work, right? That is why we're doing this work that we are doing, right? So I shared that Meryl Streep quote, and I hope it's a quote. I hope I didn't just spread fake news, but it rings really true to me personally. And it points to why I was so motivated to do this podcast episode about why getting passed over for a promotion is likely the best thing that ever happened to you. So we have heard many, many times in the spiritual world, in terms of spiritual development, that we hit rock bottom and that's when we found ourselves, right? So like I said, that crying in our bedroom, and one day we just have had enough. So we come out of our bedroom and we say, okay, I'm going to do something about this. So getting passed over for a promotion is often a catalyst for people to get support. That's why I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that emailing me is a really big deal, right? So even just reaching out and saying, hey, this thing happened to me, just so you know, right? It's like saying it out loud, right? It's basically like, I've had enough, but I'm not quite ready to do anything about it, right? Which is totally fine, right? We all have our own time and place when we're ready to do something about it. And then for some people, it is the catalyst to say no more. So I want to tell you a story about one of the students in my Executive Ahead of Time program. So she joined Executive Ahead of Time in November of 2020, and she took a leap of faith, right? She watched my webinar. And she wasn't even a podcast listener. She didn't know about me. She didn't know about the work that I was doing. But I did a webinar about how to scale yourself to the C-suite. And she is a director of engineering at her organization. And she listened to the webinar. And literally by the end of the webinar, she signed up for Executive Ahead of Time. Right? And that was that tug. That was that leap of faith. Now, here's the kicker. I'm going to give you the end. Well, it's not really the end of the story. It's the middle of the story. She hadn't even been passed over for a promotion yet. I put that in air quotes, yet. Okay, so this is coming later. So at the point that she joined my program, it was just from that pull, that tug, that said, I'm meant for something more. And this happens for people a lot, like when they're halfway point in their careers, like they get past 40 years of age and they start to look forward and they say, okay, what am I going to do for the next 20 years of my career? I really want to be making a bigger impact at my organization, not just because of my subject matter expertise. So she felt that tug. She decided to sign up for the program. She learned a lot. She got really clear on her vision. She understood some of the obstacles, some of the things that she had put in her way. But honestly, she wasn't really taking action. She was just doing internal thinking, right? Like working through it, but she wasn't quite ready to have the 15-minute ally meetings that I teach in my program, right? She created her promotion blueprint. And by a promotion blueprint, the process is basically like, what are we going to do to get ourselves promoted? What are the active steps? So she created all of that, but she wasn't actually having the conversations yet. But clearly, she was working internally. She was working on herself and getting herself ready. She was getting herself ready to speak up on her own time, right? We all have our own time and when we're ready, and we know when that is, okay? So the 6-week program happened, and she went on to graduate and go into my advanced training program called the Promotion Accelerator. So we're still in touch. And she comes to one of our coaching sessions and she says, this was the worst week ever. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Tell me more. Tell me all about it. Oh, I didn't know what was going to happen. She said, we went through major restructuring at work, like huge. Everybody was getting shifted around. It was like a tornado around me of people getting moved, people changing jobs, like, getting promoted. And for her, it came out of nowhere. She wasn't expecting it. And she said, I didn't get anything. I was just there. It was like I was invisible. And she's really good at her job. Her team gets lots of credit, right? So it wasn't because she's not an incredible manager. It's not even because she's not an amazing leader. It's because she wasn't deliberately managing her career. That was an afterthought, right? But because she had done the 6 weeks and done the prior work with me, she knew exactly what she wanted. So when she got passed over for this promotion, because she hadn't been creating the allies at her organization, she had just been internalizing it, she immediately got to work, right? It was like a split second. She got passed over for that promotion and she was like, all right, Stacy, let's do it. Let's go down the promotion blueprint. I got a fire under my butt. I'm going to have these conversations. I don't care. I am ready. And I'm certainly not staying in this position. She had been in her role for many, many years. I'm certainly not staying in this position for another 8 years. And I'm ready to do something about it. So the very next week, she had a conversation with her boss. The very next week, she set up a conversation with her VP, right? She was ready to put this into action. It was the time and the place. So I want to encourage all of you, if you're listening, that, do the internal work, like figure it out. You may still get passed over for a promotion, but it can be the catalyst to do something different. Now, I want to point out a misconception, which is that when you get passed over for a promotion, it means that you missed the boat, right? You missed your one opportunity to make it into senior executive leadership. That is so not true. Now, I want you to be disappointed. You should be disappointed. You should be frustrated. This is frustrating. But remember, you are an incredible leader. You are an amazing manager. You simply are not taking steps to deliberately manage your own career. I'm going to tell you another story of a different client who got passed over for a promotion right at the beginning of the time that we started working together. She was very upset. And I said to her, you weren't ready to be promoted. Oh, now she's really pissed at me, right? And actually, that's what everybody said to her, right? Because she spoke up. She was like, hey, what happened? I thought this was my job. Like, why did you take you didn't really want that job. That's not really the job for you. There's something else for you. Don't worry. That's not a good idea, right? And then here I am. She's paying me money and I'm her coach. And I'm telling her, yeah, you weren't ready for that role. And she was like, what the hell do you mean, Stacy? This is ridiculous. I am ready. Right? Because I'm a great manager. I'm an exceptional leader. I'm ready. Right? I don't think she said it quite like that, but it's that frustration, right? I'm ready. And I was like, you're not acting like a vice president. And then it sunk in. Oh my gosh, I'm not. And what I meant by that is she was too far in the weeds. She was solving all of the problems for her team, and she wasn't having strategic conversations with executive leadership. She was having very detailed, very like checking in about her scorecard all of the time and not talking to them about the vision that she already had in her brain, right? She wasn't sharing that information with leadership. So in that moment, we got to work, right? Essentially, what we're doing is we're deliberately managing her career, but what she's also doing is she's speaking up more visionary. She's sharing her ideas. She's starting to get that voice at the table even before she got offered the promotion. And recently, she got promoted to senior vice president. And when it happened in this way. Of course, she is the perfect person for the job. Right? It's the time when everybody says, yes, everybody, right? Like it's about time, right? That she's promoted because she's already been doing the job of a senior vice president. She's already the executive ahead of time. Now, I definitely don't want you to use this against yourself and not go for an opportunity because you say, well, I'm not ready yet. Because we all know that women wait until they have 100% of the job qualifications to actually put themselves out there for a role. So don't use this as yet another excuse to stand back, to wait until you get all of your ducks lined up, right? Because all of my coaching, everything I teach on Maximize Your Career is to get you to act before you're ready, okay? But by putting yourself out there, by raising your hand for a big project, by putting yourself in front of leadership, you're going to get butt up against what's not working. You're going to get told you're not ready for a promotion, and it's going to hurt. It's going to sting. But you have a choice. You have a choice to say, okay, I'm going to do something about it. I am going to never let this happen again. Never, ever again am I going to let the organization have such power over me that I feel less than worthy simply because I got passed over for a promotion. So what does this actually look like in practical terms? It looks a little bit like you get passed over for a second promotion. It's sort of like fool me once, okay, whatever. Fool me twice, right? You're either a fool or you do something about it, right? So let's say you get passed over for a second promotion. Then it just becomes a political issue. Then it just becomes a matter of logistics. And you say, okay, it's clear that in this particular organization, and I say organization because it's not necessarily your company as a whole, it just might be your department, it might be your boss. I am clearly not valued, but I value myself. I know exactly what to do. I've built those relationships across the board with executive leadership. I have networking opportunities externally. I am ready to go. I know what my 3X vision is. I know where I'm headed. I feel strong. I feel powerful. I know I deserve a voice at the table, and I'm going to fricking go out there and do it. So that is what happens when you get passed over for a promotion and it doesn't have that weight. It doesn't have that heaviness. It's like, okay, time to move on. Let me figure out what's next. And hopefully you have done your homework and already anticipated this, where it's like, okay, I'm going to take these steps. If it still doesn't happen, then I'm going to pivot. You've already figured out what the pivot is. So that is deliberately managing your career. That is using the idea of getting passed over for a promotion as a catalyst to create change. Let me remind you, getting passed over for a promotion is not the worst thing in the world. It's sort of like the difference between a migraine and a stroke. I hope that doesn't sound too grotesque, but getting passed over for a promotion is a migraine. It hurts. It stings. It's not fun. If you get them over and over again, nobody wants it. Getting laid off from your job for 3 years, getting sued, like having way bigger things happen to you and against you, getting hit by a bus is much worse than the little migraine that you feel by getting passed over for a promotion. And what reason why I even go here is because that's the excuse that people are making when they don't take action. Like, well, okay, I guess I better do something, but I've got time. And I want to encourage you to say, no, I'm never going to let this happen again. I'm going to take deliberate action. I'm going to make an opportunity for myself. I'm going to get back in the arena. I'm going to set myself up so that I never get passed over for promotion again. That is the work. That is what you do when you start creating this promotion blueprint. And that is exactly the steps that you're going to start taking so that it just becomes, like I said, that of course Sharon got promoted. She is the perfect person for this role. She is ready for this role. She has set herself up to be a shoo-in for her next promotion. And honestly, by the time you get the promotion, you're going to be ready for the next one, right? So it's sort of like we're either growing or we're dying. So you're always growing, always growing. You're going to get that next promotion, but by that point, you're going to be like, okay, what's next? But not from that clingy, graspy, I need something to validate me, but from that beautiful, wonderful place that we're always growing, we're always expanding, and we're always looking for where are the opportunities where I personally can make the biggest impact, have the most influence, and also have that energy and abundance to both spend time on my career, on myself, and with the people that I love the most. That is my rant for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it lit a fire under your butt. You are a corporate badass. You are. You're an amazing manager. You're an exceptional leader. Now it's time to manage your career. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful day. Bye. Before you go, I want to make sure you've downloaded my free promotion roadmap. This 7-step guide gives you the exact process that I walk each and every one of my clients through to get them the recognition that they deserve. You can download it for free at stacymayer.com/roadmap. That's STACYMAYER.com/roadmap.